Hello dear QANplatform community, Johann Polecsak here, CTO and co-founder of QANplatform. I am really pleased to announce that we finally received the testnet audit. So today's Ask Me Anything session will be mostly about that, but I will also talk about the upcoming roadmap, how are we with the milestones. And again, thank you very much for the whole team who have prepared and compiled an awesome list of all the questions which we received and organized them by topic. Also, I got a note here which says that there were repetitive questions which were asked again, which we have the answers for in previous Ask Me Anything sessions. So I kindly request the community members to watch the previous videos. You will get all the answers to those questions there. And also we will make videos for each dedicated topic like post-quantum cryptography, proof-of-randomness, QVM, so all these hot topics and main features of our product which will be covered in a mini video series one by one, so you will get additional insight on those as well. So let's dive right in with the QAN TestNet audit results. So first of all, why is it important to have an audit? And well, there are many reasons. The biggest one is that it gives a totally different perspective. I mean, when you are into something, really deep down and you are developing it day and night, then you are prone to overlook even major things. So it's really best practice to have someone who always has a secondary pair of eyes to watch what you are doing and point out any possible issues which you yourself might not see. So and this really reflects our mentality. So if you look back, we did an audit with the Certic as soon as the token came out. Then we did an audit for the token bridge. Now we did a secondary audit for the token again with Johann, which is a really awesome and also reputable audit company. And now finally the testnet audit is also ready. So yes, again, audit is not just helping us to see more clearly, it also builds trust with the community. So it's a really essential thing to do in any development lifecycle. So first question related to this: what should community members and developers appreciate the most about the document? Well, this is a subjective question. I think the X-Link breakdown, because we really should have documented it further, but now we really got a deep down insight how X-Link works. We will also publish further stories about that, and this audit also highlights that this is a really unique way what we have achieved here, because it secures the whole transition process as we move from today's cryptography era to the post-quantum era, and how X-Link is literally the most efficient way to solve this problem by only having a migration path which is 100% secure once the problem hits, but we enjoy the benefit of having full compatibility until it doesn't mean a practical concern. So I'm really proud of this part, and I think it's a really good way finally to get some more in-depth insight into how X-Link works, what the protocol looks like, how X-Link payload is constructed. But again, yeah, this is technical stuff, and I really appreciate technical stuff. And yes, again, the granularity and the depth of the documentation is awesome, and it was long overdue, but we will publish further documents on X-Link to make the public understand it more easily, because actually this document is really technical, so not everyone might be familiar with the BIP numbers, the Bitcoin improvement proposals, what we are implementing, how we are implementing it, why it should be implemented this way. So we will release also more generic, more explanatory versions of this document, which is much easier to digest for the non-really tech-savvy people as well. So next question: how many more audits needed before MainNet? So well, the next biggest milestone will be when QVM is integrated. so that will definitely require another audit, whether we have plugged it into the system correctly. And also during the mainnet parameterization, what we call mainnet beta, I think there will be a final one, although never say final in IT, because in IT nothing is final. Who did the audit? So their name is VIR ZRT. ZRT stands for a company form like AG, so Company Limited by Shares. They are an IBM Platinum partner, and they have an excellent team to deal with. So it was a really enjoyable journey. We exchanged a lot of knowledge. So they are really reputable company who we really enjoy working with. And next question, why did you choose VIR? So yes, if you look up the company, they design really complex systems. They are government suppliers. Again, they are IBM Platinum partners, so you don't just get that badge out of nowhere. So obviously you have to accomplish a certain set of tasks and demonstrate your skill set. And there are lots of criteria to meet in order to obtain this qualification. And also, since I spent quite some time in Budapest, it was really important that they are also local, because I'm pretty sure most of you are aware with how effectively we are guarding the source code before the mainnet release. So it was really hard how to get the internals audited without actually giving the software away, because, well, you can sign NDAs, there is always the legal protection, which everybody really knows that they don't really provide any effective protection. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't trust VIR, I'm saying that I wouldn't trust anybody, and no one really should, because once you give it out of your hands, the destiny of what you gave out of your hands is not in your hands anymore, literally. So really try to safeguard the systems, so we could work out an audit process where the audition took place locally. This means that we work together in a closed room during very long sessions, and they could browse the source code, compile it, test it, run unit tests, all that kind of stuff, but they were not permitted to take the sources away and conduct any testing on that at a remote location. So this was also an important factor when choosing the company who would audit our solution. Next question, you are not publishing your code, but you showed the code to the auditor. How can you make sure that they don't steal the code and the IPs of QAN? Yeah, I just explained that. So yes, it was a local auditing process which we worked out together. Next question, is there a web link or record of QAN's IP, so intellectual property applications, or an IP database somewhere? This is also an important topic, and I won't name the country, but you can look it up. So it's a country in the European Union, and there was a massive breach into the National Intellectual Property Office, and more than 30,000 intellectual property documents were stolen out of the database. And this is just an example. So the way I see it, we wouldn't get any additional value from actually registering it. But again, there is the potential threat. So in my opinion, if something works, then that's great. So you don't get any additional credibility or such by registering it publicly and obtaining some nice serial number. So it doesn't really add value. It does add some vulnerability on the other hand. So we prefer not to go for that. Next one, quantum security. In the audit report, it was mentioned that we are using quantum resistance algorithm called Dilithium. It is a candidate selected by NIST for round 3. What would happen if NIST finally discarded this algorithm? Could we adopt to another without damaging the milestones achieved so far? Wow, okay, so this is an amazing question, thank you very much. So yes, we are using Dilithium, and I'm especially thankful for phrasing like we are using it, so you really are part of the team. And as for the actual question, what would happen if NIST decided to now drop Dilithium altogether, yes, there is a migration path. So considering that Dilithium is not completely broken, so it would be really easy to design a system built on the same logic how Xlink works, because now you are cross-signing transactions with your elliptic curve wallet, and your post-quantum wallet, which happens to be using Dilithium, yes. Let's say that Dilithium is obsolete, so we cross that out and we have to pick another one. So all we have to make is to link now these three together, that yes, this elliptic curve wallet was linked to this Dilithium key pair, now this XYZ algorithm is linked to this Dilithium key pair and this EC key pair. And finally we just discard the Dilithium part and continue using the EC key pair and this XYZ algorithm key pair. So it's perfectly doable, and since the X-link has to be established on every single account, so remember, or well, if for the newcomers, if you can't remember because you are new around here, if you read up on X-link, you will see that it's a protocol designed for provability of ownership of another signing key. So we can just simply replace it with another algorithm and continue using that algorithm in the future. So yes, there is a 100% safe migration path if NIST would finally discard this algorithm for any reason. Although we definitely don't think so. Next question. How will quantum encryption affect the TPS of other blockchains? Okay, so first, just terminology. There is no encryption mainly on blockchain, so it's all about digital signatures. So we are not using any kind of encryption, quantum encryption, post-quantum encryption whatsoever, and other chains aren't using it mostly either. So I think this question really wants to ask that if we put post-quantum signatures in place, how will that affect the transaction per second of other blockchains? And this is a complex question because signatures, I mean post-quantum signatures, are larger in size, but they are not all of them, but most of them are actually easier to compute. So at the same time, in the same time frame, you could actually generate more quantum signatures than elliptic curve signatures, but obviously it would consume more space as well. So well, and I think TPS here really is the least of the problem, because those chains who are actively using post-quantum signatures on every single transaction and block at the moment will have storage problems much sooner than they would expect. So we did some calculations, and I think one chain would reach the Ethereum chain size in a couple of months, given that the network is fully saturated. So it's really not feasible. And yes, X-Link is the way to go, that we only provide a migration path and we only make the actual switch when it's absolutely necessary, with maintaining the guarantees that everybody can make the switch and the switch can be seamless at any given point in time. So this is the key here. So next one, the signature size of all the promising lattice signatures for the application of smart contract is too big to be used efficiently in the long term. Roughly 1000 bytes usually. How will QAN manage this? So yes, as I said, X-Link provides us to use elliptic curve signatures until the problem becomes practical, and we still have time to research it. But yes, the question is very right. So the way you see it, and as I just explained in the previous question, they're using post-quantum signatures for each and every transaction to consume a tremendous amount of storage. So this is a problem to be solved, and yes, this applies to all current lattice-based algorithms. So this is still under research. Next one, consensus. So this is a whole new section about consensus. The previous part was about quantum security. Why does the audit mention proof of authority as the consensus mechanism, and how will proof-of-randomness address the scaling issues mentioned in the audit? So this question is, well, let's get a couple things straight. So proof of authority is a commonly used algorithm for running testnets, where the company is running the nodes which are participating in the testnet. This is the case for Ethereum as well, they have multiple. So Ethereum also has proof of work and also proof of authority testnets, and also other companies do it this way. It's really important to know the background that consensus doesn't relate to the network scaling problem. So the scaling issue mentioned in the audit is not related to proof of authority, it's related to the synchronous network model. That means that every single node in the network has to know each and every other in the network. So they have a map of each other, so they know who to talk to. As opposed to peer-to-peers or so-called asynchronous networks, where one node only knows the neighbors of theirs. So information is propagated very differently, so you don't talk to and you don't broadcast information to all across the whole network to every single node at the same time, but rather you just tell information you got to your neighbors, and they will also tell their neighbors and also tell their neighbors. And by this I'm pretty sure that you can feel that one is much faster but doesn't scale really well, and the other one provides awesome scalability, but it's not really fast because we also always have a delay as the information is being propagated across the nodes. And our solution to this problem will be, so again, to readdress the question, this has nothing to do with consensus, it only has to do with the network model, and our methodology is to keep the advantages of a synchronous network, meaning that yes, inside the network all the nodes know each other and can communicate directly, but we would rotate the members of that network. So it isn't like the network can grow indefinitely and we would run into scalability issues, but we would also connect this similar to how proof of randomness is running, that once you can enter the network as a main participant, and again there are network roles, then don't get me wrong, if you are running a blockchain at home you won't be soon kicked out or something like that. Please don't misunderstand this message. This means that the backbone who are effectively participating in the validation and core network process can be thrown out and others can join in to hold their places. And then there are the other nodes which you are running at home who are syncing with the blockchain. You will be fine all the time. And yes, this is our approach, to keep the network synchronous because it's a huge performance boost, so it's really incomparable to an asynchronous network, and solve the scalability problem by rotating the members of this network. So this is the scalability part, because this really is two separate questions actually just mixed into one question. To address the other part as well, so why it's proof of authority, because well, proof of randomness is not fully ready as a consensus model at the moment, and it's only a testnet which had the main goal to demonstrate how we solve the quantum problem, that it's Ethereum compatible, and that you can check the speeds of the transaction processing. So these were the three key points which the testnet was supposed to demonstrate, and it does so perfectly with proof of authority, which is a common choice again for running testnets. Next one, will one device have advantage over another device when it comes to validating mining with the proof of randomness consensus algorithm? The answer is a simple no. So no preference, so it doesn't matter whether you use a more powerful machine or Raspberry Pi, you will have the same chance with every kind of devices. Based on the team token allocation, there could be a centralization risk once proof of randomness starts on the mainnet. How do you overcome this? And yes, this was actually a quite long question if I remember correctly, so this is a short summary of that question. And all I can say that proof of randomness is the best from the others out there, because even if you look at Bitcoin, there are three major mining pools. I think that's pretty much centralized. So if two out of those three would agree to somehow alter or somehow process or not to process or discard transactions, they could do it just perfectly fine. So three key people or three key players or groups deciding about the inclusion list for Bitcoin, that's pretty much centralized. Again, if you look at proof of stake, you stake more tokens, you get more vote, pretty much centralized. So it's important to know that proof of randomness isn't the silver bullet to solve everything and make all the blockchain problems disappear. It's just simply the best solution to the problem at the moment. I'm not saying that it couldn't be improved further. Actually, we are researching many ways how to make it even better in the long run, but it's not a silver bullet which solves all the problems at once like this. So no, definitely there could be centralization issues, but again, those centralization issues kick back a lot sooner with other consensus mechanisms. Okay, so this is the end of the consensus section. Next one up is QVM. First one. The QVM part of the audit made me feel that QANplatform MainNet launch will come later 2022, but the Ethereum compatibility aspect is probably like late 23 or 24. No, so, well, EVM itself is a much simpler and much easier to integrate virtual machine than QVM is. Also a lot less resource intensive. So actually we have to see that QVM is a full-blown or almost full-blown Linux kernel which can run any kind of workload you throw at it, and you can write in any languages and stuff like that. So QVM integration is a much bigger task than EVM is. The culprit is that integrating both at the same time takes a challenge, because the EVM logic is completely different than the QVM logic. And you might ask that, well, but since we said that QVM can run any kind of language, including Ethereum, right? And right, yes, the answer is yes. But since EVM alone, standalone without QVM, is a much less resource intensive stuff, we should integrate it separately. And by that I mean that you shouldn't launch a QVM instance to run EVM based code, because that's like flying a Boeing to go to the supermarket with your car. So it really doesn't make sense. So those two things should be able to operate independently. And if running EVM code touching QVM runtime is not necessarily, and we shouldn't bundle it into that. Because from a development standpoint of view, obviously this would be the simplest way to go, that well, just run it inside QVM, because QVM can take anything. And while the answer is yes, I mean that would be a possibility, it's really resource inefficient, which we obviously don't want to do. So EVM and QVM must come together at the same time according to our principles. And no, it definitely won't take another 1 or 2 years to integrate EVM. So we are working on it. And I think that QVM without EVM might be actually introduced sooner, because we made better progress with that. But in the mainnet, both engines must come together. Okay, so next one. Do you plan to scale up your progress with potential capital raise? So in this field, capital isn't the main bottleneck. It's actually about finding talent. It's about finding who... It's a really complex matrix. People need to understand how blockchains work. They have to know Bitcoin, all the defaults, from the bottom up. They have to know how Ethereum works, how the state machine works, how the VM works. And if you have all that knowledge, I mean, these people who have all this deep kind of knowledge can code in a Go language we are using, are good in cryptography, which is, well, is essential, are good at distributed systems. And then again, here comes QVM and post-quantum cryptography. So these are so limiting factors, as I said, is such a complex skill set that it's really hard to find people. So even if we raised additional capital from whomever, it wouldn't solve our HR problems, which is pretty sad. So yes, we do plan to scale up our progress, but it's not really just up to us. It's about finding the right people who we click with. And it's, again, I think working in a team is not just about competences and I can do this and he can do that, but we also have to function together as a living organism. We have to understand each other. We have to know that we can depend on the others, and it's a really complex thing. And I just recently watched a video about how the most high-performing organization on the planet is working, that being SEAL Team 6, and they would much more hire a trustworthy person who you can really depend on than a top performer, because the human qualities, I wouldn't say also matter, they actually matter more. So I really believe in building a core team which we can depend on and which we can achieve results with together during pressing times. So yes, this is not an easy task to do. I mean, scaling up and finding more people and expanding the team, and definitely not limited by capital only. So this is a much more complex question. Next one, is the integrated internal QVM testing taking place, timing for public testnet? So first, obviously, we will now focus on fixing all the raised issues which came up as the result of the audit. As you have seen, these are minor issues, easy to fix. Some of them were even expected. So those who have read the actual audit report can see that private key leakage is not handled properly because, and I think this was also mentioned not just as a comment, but it also made it into the actual audit, that I was reasoning that even if a private key leakage happens, there is nothing to lose, because these are testnet tokens only and it's really a sandbox. But no matter what, the auditor is right that these systems should be mapped out and designed in a way as they will be the final mainnet version. So obviously we have to account for these issues and we have to fix them. We just rolled out the release because we thought that even if there is some misconfiguration or zero-day vulnerability which someone could exploit, then there is no real financial value currently being traded on the testnet, so it wouldn't be a disaster. But these are the little things which we need to fix so we can build upon, so we have a solid foundation to integrate QVM. So yes, to summarize the answer to the question, QVM tests are running, but now the focus is on patching up the testnet and regarding all the related issues which you can read in the audit report. Next question, is it possible to demo QVM? And I found this a great idea because, I always think in complex systems, like having QVM in place, deploying code onto the chain which stores it in the DB, then you can call the contract, it can modify the state and all interconnected logic. But I think it would be possible to create a command line interface based program which shows how you can execute code written in any language, how it could modify the state and print out the results on the command line. Although this would be something I think only developers would appreciate, but nonetheless I will consult the team and let's see how much time this would take. And I think if it's feasible it could be done, yes. Thank you very much for asking this. And the last but really short question is, when QVM testnet? And again, we always do our best to develop the roadmap milestones accordingly, but again, you have to understand that we put in all the effort, but we have to focus on fixing the the minor issues pointed out by the testnet audit first. So we really want to build on a solid foundation. So please be patient about this. And as always, related any kind of item you see on the long roadmap, when you see that it's age 1, then always assume the last day of age 1, and if it's earlier, then everybody is happy. So please just stick to this strategy. I can assure you that every single person involved is doing their very best all day and night to achieve these results. So, the closing section is about next steps. So what are the next steps? Does the received audit change the roadmap of the project? If yes, how and why? So no, not really, not in any fundamental way. As I have pointed out earlier, we have to patch up these little things which we know now, but that shouldn't take any more than a couple of weeks, so no fundamental changes at all. Next one, in the previous Ask Me Anything session you hinted that you would share what QAN meant or stood for. I'm keen to hear more about that. So again, as the audit reflects that the current tech paper and white paper need to be replaced because they describe a completely different solution, the new updated documents which will get updated on the website, they will be replaced. They will also highlight what the QAN and letters mean one by one. So stay tuned for that, and you will be able to read these papers very soon. Next one, how confident are you in your ability to reach a reasonable amount parentheses 4-5 of additional milestones in H1? Will this push the overall release of the mainnet back? So again, most of the milestones in H1 are dependent on each other, so they literally illustrate a dependency graph if you look at it. So it's really hard to reach one without the other, but I'm pretty confident about being on track. As I said earlier, that the fixing up these issues might take a couple of weeks away, but nothing major. So yes, we are definitely on track. Next one, could you share please some specifics about the status of each item on the roadmap from H1 and H2? So yeah, again, we are still in H1, and please do not ask about H2 at all. I mean, the whole team is under serious pressure to reach these milestones, and everybody is doing their very best day and night. And this has grown somewhat culture, you know, we really push this forward together. So please don't be impatient, because there's a team who is really giving their best efforts, and all they can see that there is a time pressure from the community side. Please don't do that. So if we are in H1, concentrate on H1. I'm more than happy to tell more in detail, but please don't always give this kind of time pressure thing, because it really demoralizes and makes the team feel, I wouldn't say it makes them feel bad, but the expectations are already incredibly high. So if you look back what we have achieved by now, I think many other projects haven't achieved this many things in even 3 times this time available. So please respect that, and please respect the people working on the project. As for the H1 milestones, yes, LibraScan will be a huge hit, which is getting closer to completion. Although I must say that I was pretty much excited to build a team of community volunteers and members, because I thought that this really adds benefit to the whole community. This thing would be completely open source, so I really wanted to give back, and I was really counting on more people signing up as developers. And to be honest, we didn't really get much more than a couple offers with a crazy, unreasonable amount of salary that they would work on LibraScan in exchange for ridiculous amounts. So we did outsource it. So I think you have seen the initial release of the demo of LibraScan, which showcases that the UI was ready, the scrapers still need to be done, the database, and there are a lot of modules which need to be put in place. But the whole team's idea was that if we publish the UI, how it would look like, and we describe what kind of modules need to be done and what kind of people we are looking for, then it could be a really community project, which sadly turned out that this is not the case. Again, a couple people have tried to sign up and demanded insanely high salaries, so we had to bring in external people. Luckily, this project, LibraScan, is something which doesn't need that much of an expertise, because it really needs to be an Ethereum RPC compatible scraping engine, and there are quite quite some people who are capable of doing that. But yes, actually we had to outsource it, but it's on track and it will come. And again, QVM and integrating QVM into the testnet and also into the private blockchain. So those are two correlated but different milestones. So private blockchain works a lot differently than a mainnet, obviously. And QVM makes all the difference. So when QVM is ready, we can approach all these businesses and show them that this is definitely the blockchain your own team can build upon. So no need to hire external contractors and stuff like that. So we expect a huge breakthrough from that. And as I said, QVM is also right on track. So most of the milestones for age 1 are on the right path, and I'm highly confident about them. And again, no H2 please, really. Next one, getting some famous companies on board seems to be good for marketing. Will QANplatform focus on traditional enterprises clients B2B first? Yes, I'm a big believer that if we get businesses to adopt blockchain technology in a transparent way, so their clients can see what's being done and how processes are easier with this perspective, then I think we will gain traction. And by saying we, I mean the whole blockchain community. I'm just super happy that QANplatform is the one which we can hand over to businesses, and they will be able to build any kind of solution on top of that. So it's not this complex thing anymore, which all the CTOs of companies who have kind of read about blockchain and kind of know how it works and what it does feel about, okay, our guys definitely can do that. We will need to hire contractors for it, and there are the risks and all that stuff. So making blockchain such a distant goal for any given company, we are the ones who will be able to transform it to an easy insider project any company's current development team will be capable of pulling off. So yes, to answer the question, it's definitely among the goals of QANplatform to first approach businesses to motivate them to include blockchain technology, obviously quants, so to build really cool solutions which really make their customers' lives easier. So this is the way to mass adoption, which is a really well-known phrase in the whole blockchain ecosystem, and I really believe that this is the way to do it, to approach businesses who already have clients, and this is the most efficient way of spreading information and the technology itself. Next one, can we still expect partnership with a well-known company? How it will affect how will it affect the project? Yes, this is still in progress, so we are still negotiating about the terms of the contract. And well, once we fix all these points and we eventually get to signing this contract, I'm pretty sure you can imagine that this is not super easy to fix all these terms, because this is of really high significance. But yes, if we sign this contract, there will be definitely a delay in mainnet release. But on the other hand, QANplatform will be very well known on the whole planet, and our position will be unquestionable. So I think that's a big plus actually, and a couple months of delay is definitely worth it in exchange for getting well known on the whole planet. So yes, I think this was the last question for today. And there is also a small note that there were other questions not related to the audit. Please ask those in the forums. This Ask Me Anything session was purely dedicated to the audit results and also about the upcoming next steps. So make sure that any question which didn't get answered, please ask those in the community channels. So, thank you very much for being here with me today and listening to this Ask Me Anything session. See you again next time. Goodbye.